Okay. Welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review Episode 140. You were thinking, really? 140? Wow. And Black Clover just hit this number just recently, like 8 episodes prior to this one, because one I released today was episode 148. So basically, a little over 2 months ago. So basically, the next anime review series to hit 140 will probably be, at this point, My Hero Academia. Yep, that one definitely will. This one is another one of these anime original episodes. So next week, we're getting kind of a canon episode, but it's not on the main manga. I will get to that later on. This is called Ballad of the Woman Who Loves Cake. Yes, that is seriously the name of this episode. Love Cake. We start off with Genta, Micho, and Ami just walking through an abandoned building with their flashlight watches, where they walk there for a little while, and they come across a hand stick out underneath some rubble. And they kind of laugh at that for a bit. Yes, they laugh at someone under rubble. And then the person just gets up and shakes stuff off and walks out. And also has the three get knocked out. Well, basically shocks them to go unconscious. And then we see Conan just walking outside the road. And then we see a red car speed by. When I saw this car, like, wait, is that Sato's car? No, this car actually belongs to a different character. Just the same exact car. It's like they pretty much reused the design for Sato's awesome red sports car that she's had since basically because the car was introduced in this series, and they practically get designed into a one-shot character. So, then, of course, they follow this mysterious blood trail, which goes on for quite a while, ends up at a cafe, which apparently they've been to before, even though this has never been brought up before. This particular cafe is known as Western, I think it's Western Custer's, like, Paradise, I believe it is. We see a woman wearing dirty clothes eating a cake. Now you're probably thinking, okay, she got blood stain on her ankle. Is this the same woman? Not really, per se. It's not the same one we came up with that concrete. Yeah, they revealed this a little bit later. Of course, Conan notices there's this string there. That comes to play a little bit later on in the episode. I like the fact that I will get more into this a little bit later. So they go to the actual building where they follow this woman there. Then, of course, then we see, get this. Okay, they couldn't exactly go front door, but there's a service entrance. So they go up there. And then we see, there's some screaming going on. And find out the president of this company has been found buried in the sink that's full of red bean paste. I'm like, really? Even basically McGuire thought this was very eccentric to kill somebody. I mean, drowning somebody in red bean paste? Really? Same stuff they make some of the cakes with. Oh, by the way, people who discovered this particular president of the company is the VP, who's also the president's younger brother, and the president's secretary. Now, they kind of reveal the secretary practically runs the whole company, despite the fact her job is secretary. That makes no sense. I've never heard of a secretary that practically run a whole frickin' company. Last time I checked, that's the president's job. And in case you're curious, though, did they go into how the heck this thing works? No, they didn't. It's one of those things that baffles me. Oh, and by the way, she identifies, what's her alibi for this murder? She was buried in a concrete wagon by detective boys. I'm like, are you sure about that? And also, how the heck did you at least read were detective boys? Also, where the heck is Hybra? It's one of those cases where the writer of this episode clearly forgot she exists again. Also, one thing I didn't know was missing from this episode, aside from Hybra, did anybody remember bringing any cell phones in here? Well, it's implied we have a phone call off screen where Conan is brought to this particular place, but apparently they forgot cell phones. Yeah, cell phones don't exist in this episode for some strange reason. I don't know why. It's like they have these phone calls happen off screen for some strange reason. I don't really know why, but that's basically the way it is. So, Mori is there because here to pick up the kids. And I guess he's got a car now. I guess he basically rented some car at some point. Because here's the thing. Maury does not own a car. He has never owned a car. All the cars you see him drive in this series, they're all rentals. He has briefly like an episode or two before he switched over to a different car. His estranged wife has got a car. But this Maury? No, he does not own one. It's never noted if he actually did own one at some point because he's got this office that he's able to maintain this fact a lot of time he doesn't get a lot of cases. I would probably say he makes a lot of his money. The reason why I say I'm saying business is because the fact he worked as a consultant for the police department and they pay him every time. That's probably the reason why I say I'm saying business. And probably because he's famous too. So, and by the way, Maury does, like, he talks to a couple people, but after he talks to the president, the VP, the VP's beautiful wife, yeah, I got a hand to the VP, like, he made a beautiful woman, like, wow, I'm surprised Maury wasn't basically surprisingly hitting on her. I mean, normally his MO be like, hey guy, hey man, your wife is hot. Yeah, he would do that, but here, no. He does not make the comment at all. It's like he just shows like completely out of the blue. It's almost like he was there for the obvious reason. So you have Conan basically have Detective Boy just gather information. Like, okay. So apparently the president wanted to introduce, like, they want to switch from Western sweets to Japanese sweets. Yep, want to switch sweets. And apparently the president was for it. He wanted to do this, and the VP and the VP's wife were actually against this. Though it's later revealed they actually were for this anyway for some reasons. Not really delved into. It's like a lot of the stuff related to this episode is never really delved into very much at all. It's like it's there, but it's never fully explored. Oh, and by the way, they later see, like, when you first see the actual, like, when you see the face of the VP's wife, she had just come out of the shower. And then later on you see her when she arrives at the company. It's revealed by Ami that apparently she was kind of rude to her because she hit her with the door of her car. And she apparently didn't notice that she hit a child. I'm like, and here's the thing. Conan never says anything to her about this cell. As a matter of fact, he never has a conversation with her. He does briefly talk to the VP, briefly. Where after they have an emergency meeting, and of course he shines a light in the VP's face, and of course VP runs to go chase him, and Conan goes, "Your wife is not the culprit," and he's like, he's probably thinking, no, of course this particular conversation is explored a little bit later on in a flashback. They do explain that Conan figures out though who the real culprit is, and it's not his wife, and it's not the VP. Who it is, I'll get to. So, we actually have where they have their meeting here. Of course, they have this green cake. I'm not sure what the heck this is. And they imply they eat it off screen because apparently she's got stuff to do. So, they apparently collapse. And then we see two people. We see 3 of the 5 detective boys. There are 5 of them. Half the time, the people who write these episodes forget Hybrid exists. They forget. Why? Why did they forget this character exists? I have no idea. Like, there's no reason why she's not in the episode. Why? Because you don't have a darker version of Conan in this episode? Like, what's it? You can't write for 5 freaking kids? Like, what is the matter with you writers? Why can't you include her in the episodes? Half the time lately I've seen where she's complete absent. Only one time they kind of give an explanation for her absence. That was actually just last episode. And of course she didn't show up in the episode itself. This episode, there's no reason for the absence. There's no explanation where the heck she is. I mean, maybe not include a gossip all the time, fine. But with Hybrid, does she not hang out with Detective Boys anymore in the series? In these original content? I don't know, it's kind of weird. So, then of course we have the Detective Boys where after they finish getting information about the whole strange stuff and the whole thing with the sweets. Oh yeah, Ami does note the fact that the wife smells nice. By the way, she never speaks to the wife the whole episode. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, only Takagi and McGuire actually speak to the wife, aside from her husband. And it's like these two's presence in the episode is barely seen. And Tagagi's seen like a couple of times in the episode after the scene of basically discovering the body. Maguire shows up once after that scene. Once. Pops the name for swear, Steel Culprit. So Conan, while wandering around this particular office building, yes, a child walk around the office building by themselves without an adult around. I get the reason why Conan, because he's basically a teenager in a child's body, so I can go with it. But other kids should not really do much of it. It's quite dangerous. They might run into this. Well, this is a pretty safe building anyways. So he tells Takagi, hey, Mori would like to want me to tell you that friends is basically one chicken something. So then later on we see 3 out of the 4 detective boys just stand in front of a particular place to make, well, cakes per se. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they make cakes, and who these people are, they actually do this later on. They talk about how much she loves cakes, and then Mori shows up, and we got the first conversation, and Mori shows like, ah, there you are. And Conan basically, while everybody's looking, like, snip, and just has him, like, he basically quickly runs behind him, and then he proceeds to almost follow the woman on Secretary Io. Yeah, and apparently they proceed to dance. Yes, this secretary is dancing with a guy who's unconscious. It's done for comedy, and there's like this basically this painting stuff in there. Yeah, she's like trying to fend him off, and she's like, "Man, you're an old man who reeks of cigarettes." Mori is 38 years old. And you call him old? Seriously? Like, apparently the writers think that 38 is old, even though not really. Yeah, of course they mentioned, oh yeah, she's actually behind all this. And the people behind the glass, it's people who were apparently dead. The VP and his beautiful wife. Apparently she was opposed to this plan, so she killed the president, and she's the one who caused the explosion and nearly killed the VP's beautiful wife. And, well, after the whole conversation, Mori follows like Genta, which I thought was so funny. And then, of course, she's hallucinating all these sweets that she loves so much. I'm like, she likes eating sweets so much. How the heck does she maintain a figure of hers if she loves eating cake? Like cake, pies, like all this cake and pies. And yet she never maintained a thin figure. And then, of course, like, after the person's arrested, and then later on, like, after the credits, we see the building that the woman collapsed, we see the VP's wife collapsed in, is demolished. And that's it. That's literally the episode. By the way, next episode is going to be more interesting, though, because it's going to be an adaptation of a spin-off manga known as Police Academy Story. Focused on Japanese Musa. That's going to be quite interesting when they cover that episode. Yep. But let's let the following thing this episode never brought to explore. Like, it's almost like, though, like, here's a big one for you. How the heck did the secretary know these 3 were part of the Detective Boys? Unless they mention, oh yeah, like, apparently she didn't bring up the fact how the heck she knew these three kids were Detective Boys. And how the heck would they know that she knew that they saw her, like, their terrifying voices where they frightened and wake him up? Here's the thing. How the heck would she know that? Okay? Unless she was there. Of course, there's no mention of it at all. Here's one for you. Why switch from Western sweets to Japanese sweets? That point was never brought up in the episode. Maybe it's due to health reasons. That's probably the reason why. I get maybe the reason why she wanted to keep the Western sweets because she loves them. Fine. But killing her lover, who also had to be her boss, just because he wanted to switch and stuff? Okay, that seems like a very flimsy reason why. But I guess she had good motivation. Also, here's something, though, about this episode. Why was it that the wife never interacted with Detective Boys? Seriously, there was, like, no conversation with her at all. It's like, oh, And by the way, they pose as like cake makers for some strange reason. Like, okay. Yeah, it's almost like a lot of stuff. Oh, yeah, by the way, was anybody in this episode use a cell phone? Like, it's implied these people use cell phones off screen. But when you see cell phones, not really, no. It's like no explanation for why you couldn't show a single cell phone this whole episode for like no explained reason. It's almost like this episode was made for something that happened about 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe. Or could be this was a script that was supposed to be for like an episode for a hybrid that did show up in the anime. But it was retooled for modern day, including like phones. But I think the most funniest thing in the whole episode is more given the explanation why he's standing up. I thought that was so funny. Yep, but not much else to say of this episode. There's some minor plot holes here, which I thought was kind of odd. But yeah, we're going to some canon stuff next week. But it's adaptation of a side story. I don't know if they're going to adapt the whole series. I read it recently. I actually got to admit, it's actually pretty good for a spin-off book. And here's the thing. It is supervised by the creator of Case Closed, but he's not writing it. Nope, he probably is giving the writer ideas. It's a complete in person. The other reason why I think that they're adapted because there probably isn't material just yet. They're probably thinking, okay, we need to probably start adapting some canon stuff. Like, we can't always depend upon waiting for the writer to basically come finish, come up with a story so we can adapt the story that comes next. Like, we probably have to do this so just by time. Here's a clue, people who make Case Closed. I mean, yeah, you want to adapt the spin-off manga that came out last year? Yeah, this came out last year. Fine. That's not an issue. There are special chapters, over 500 of them. Adapt that stuff. Isn't that hard just to pick another one of these chapters? You adapt one before for a single episode. But you can't adapt anymore. You can't just retool these things to include other characters who weren't there. You could do that. Nope. Won't bother to. If all these other spin-off books, I mean, I get the fact you want to do Wild Police, or that kind of loosely ties into some characters who pop in the show. Fine. And I've heard also Zero's Tea Time. That's basically Amuro. It's his manga. I've heard that's been confirmed for an anime. I'm personally looking forward to it, but I want to read the manga first. The manga is not that long. It's longer than manga. Just recently, just today, caught up, and that was Welcome Demon School Irma-kun. This manga is only about 55 chapters. Like, really? Yes. And here's the thing. The writer works in this series. Yeah, the writer who works Case Closed also works in this too. He does this in between the story actually does for Case Closed. I can explain why the fact that a lot of recent cases have been 3 chapters. Yep. So yeah, that's a particular review. Stay tuned. Next review is going to be a review of Boruto. Okay, next video. Bye.